Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that you've seen me review a good few things from over the last couple of weeks, and they're one of the iconic New England IPA breweries actually. I've been very lucky to be able to try some of these ones for you. So for this review then we are going to go to Charlton in Massachusetts once again, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Treehouse Brewing. So this particular beer is the Treat, which is a New England Double IPA coming in at 8.1% ABV. And this one is supposed to be really pretty damn good actually. When I had a little look on Untappd, it had a rating of 4.25, which is, you know, really very, very high for that particular platform. I'm wondering if there has been a few different iterations of this beer. I know that Massive Matt, Massive Beer Reviews, he's reviewed this one, and his one had like a pink label on it actually, so I'm not sure whether they just changed the label or whether this is a different iteration of the beer. But when you check it out on Untappd, there's not any yearly listings or anything like that. But this one should be a really nice beer. A massive thank you once again to Chris Contreras, American dude living in Belgium, who's sent me some insane beers over the last few months. He made this review possible, and it's really cool actually to be able to try some of the more obscure or lesser well-known beers, I guess you could say, from Treehouse as well, because obviously there are, you know, the Julius, the Haze and the Green and stuff like that. Those are the quite well-known ones, but to be able to try something like this that is not quite as well known by Europeans, I think is pretty special. So again, a huge thank you to Chris for making this review possible. I hate to think how much that dude has spent on postage sending me beer, but obviously it's massively, massively appreciated, and I really hope that you guys watching enjoy these Treehouse reviews. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Treehouse Brewing, and hopefully I can review those more regularly beyond the ones that Chris has sent me already. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely, hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Treehouse Brewing then, on to my brewery notes once again. So as I've told you before, Treehouse Brewing Company are based in Charlton in Massachusetts, which can be found about halfway between Hartford and Connecticut to the southwest and Boston and Massachusetts up on the coast to the northeast. But the company was founded back in 2011 by 4 friends. This is Dean Rowan, Nate Lanier, Damien Goodrow and Jonathan Weisbach, although I have a suspicion that the latter is not involved in the company anymore, but do correct me in the comments section below if I am wrong about that. But Dean had a background as a plumber, Jonathan was a graphic designer, Damien co-owns and runs a gym, and Nate was a construction manager, so they all came from very varied backgrounds actually. But the guys had homebrewed together from around 2008 in Nate's kitchen, but then they moved to a small 2.5 acre farm in Brimfield, which had a treehouse on the edge that would go on to inspire the name of the brewery, and you can see that on a lot of the cans actually. The more kind of regular, better known beers from these guys do tend to have that sort of treehouse background, lots of different colours and things like that. But the brewery continued to grow over the coming years, but they moved in 2013 to Corran Farm in Monson, which was owned by one of the founders' families, and there they were able to expand their capacity from 150 to 900 US gallons per brew, or 570 litres to 3,400 litres in real people measurements. The metric system is better, I keep saying it, but they also opened up a tap room at this site as well, which proved to be very, very popular. In 2016 though, the company bought land in Charlton, and they planned the construction of a 53,000 square foot facility, or 5,000 square metres, again in real people measurements, but they opened up this brewery in May of 2017, and it can produce 60,000 US barrels or 9.5 million litres of beer per year. But the previous site at Monson is now home to their barrel aging programme, and over the last few years they've added a larger outdoor space and another mezzanine level inside the brewery at Charlton. But in 2019 they also purchased a farm in Woodstock in Connecticut as well, and apparently they're planning to experiment further there with barrel aging and also some open fermentation, so you might well see some sour beers coming out soon from Treehouse Brewing as well. As it stands, Nate is the head brewer, and according to Untappd they've produced somewhere in the region of 300 beers as of November 2019 when I'm filming this one for you. So yeah, like I said, one of the iconic American New England IPA breweries, along with the likes of Hill Farmstead, Trillium, you've got Treehouse as well, and Alchemist. That's the other one I was looking for. I always forget one when I do these videos. But yeah, those are probably the big four when it comes to the New England IPAs, and it's interesting because you see little traits between all of them. The Alchemist beers are quite rustic and farmhousey. The Treehouse ones are really quite smooth, I think, and very, very drinkable, and the Trillium ones rather are a little bit more, they've got a little bit more kind of bite and zest and stuff to them, I think. So it's always interesting to see these little different trends between the New England breweries and stuff like that. Other half, of course, down in New York, amongst others, are getting some real plaudits at the moment. You know, you've got Kings County Brewers Collective, Fifth Hammer, Finback. You've got all of these breweries in the New York area that are getting a good name for themselves now as well, and the likes of Aslan and things from just around the DC area, and there's a hell of a lot of really kind of hyped New England IPA breweries. And you've got Chicago as well. I've been lucky enough to try some Chicago beers thanks to Jesse Holden over there as well. You know, it's great to have followers like this on the channel who, you know, take you around and send you beer and stuff like that. It's one of the best things about doing this kind of thing. You get to meet interesting people and just chat about beer, you know, people that you wouldn't meet otherwise. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Treehouse Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is a little bit different compared to what we had previously with the other kind of Treehouse beers. Yeah, I don't know if it's a different series or what. It didn't. I tried finding that out, but it didn't really say on the website actually, but there are just some of their cans have different artworks and things like that on them. But it says, Treat is an imperial IPA brewed by Treehouse Brewing Company exhibiting rich hop complexity. Its flavours are a function of complex and carefully selected ingredients and experienced hands-on brewing application. By utilising enormous kettle and dry hop additions, we are able to coax clean and vibrant flavours of orange, lychee, mango and grapefruit from a simple base of ingredients. Enjoy this treat, you've earned it. So by the sounds of that, I'm wondering if there'll be mosaic, maybe, yeah, mosaic on the basis of the orange, or maybe Amarillo, and lychee, mango and grapefruit. You can get all of those from Citra, but then again you've got these hops like Idaho 7 and Girillo and all this that are popping up that have got really random kind of fruity flavours. But if they're saying it's a simple one, and I think, you know, I can't remember how old Massive Matt's review of this one was. I didn't watch it, but because I didn't want to go spoil the beer, of course, but I did just see that he had reviewed it. But if this beer's been around for a little bit, I would think, you know, it could well be that it is simply Citra and Mosaic, or Citra and Amarillo that's in this one. But yeah, as you can see, nicely presented can this. You can see there is the Treehouse Brewing Company symbol on the back there, the Whomping Willow, a little bit like Harry Potter of course. But I have to admit, I do like that. I'm guessing that's the creation of Jonathan Weisbach. But 8.1% New England Double IPA, this one, 473 milliliter can, sorry, 1 US pint. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the taste. I'm really curious to see how this turns out. And the really cool thing about this actually is that when Chris sent these beers to me, he sent me one box with an Aslan beer and then Julius, Hayes and Green. And then he decided he was going away on another trip and he sent me another box with loads of other stuff in it. And this second box that he sent me, these beers are really just in their prime at the moment. I've always felt with New England IPAs that you need to, you know, to drink them fresh. It doesn't work out quite in the same way as it would with a West Coast IPA. I always find the New England IPAs feel a little bit more greener and burny and things like that. You have to get these just, I think, about 3 weeks or so, about 3-4 weeks in. Be interested to hear your opinions on that as well, but I think I'm very lucky to be able to get these beers just right in their prime at the moment actually. So again, a huge thank you to Chris for sending me insane in some of these insane American beers. So yeah, as you can see with this one then, if I hold this one up to the light, this is definitely one of the more kind of soupy, gloopy type New England IPAs. You can see it's a lovely bright yellow sort of peach mango-y type juice colour. There's a solid, what would that be, about a third finger of a frothy white head. That's just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer, as you would normally get from what some of these higher alcohol New England IPAs. I'm guessing, I have heard as well that the wheat is something in the New England IPAs that helps the head kind of retain a little bit. So I don't know if the fact that the head fades away on this one a little bit is more an indicator that there's not so much wheat in the malt base of this one. I think there will be a bit, but it varies from brewery to brewery how much they use that. Some breweries prefer to use oats, some prefer to use dextrin and dextrose and things like that. There's a whole host of variance there, and that's probably what gives you the kind of variance between the likes of Alchemist and Trillium and Treehouse and Hill Farmstead and all of this too. But yeah, a lovely looking New England Double IPA. This one, you can see the level of haze on this. Basically, you know, barley soup, as my Swedish friend Callie likes to call beer. But yeah, you can see one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of this one and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, nothing particularly surprising about this beer when you consider it is a New England IPA. So yeah, but and obviously the level of haze will depend on how high in alcohol it is, more malt content and all of this. But yeah, let's look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, again, you can tell straight away this beer really is in its prime. And it's interesting, I've noticed this, and I don't think I've noticed this with the European New England IPAs, but with these American ones that I've been having, they really have, when you take in the aroma quite deeply, it has this almost kind of medicinal, sort of sultana, dried fruity kind of quality to it. And I've not noticed that with the European double IPAs, I have to admit. I don't know exactly what's causing that actually. But your fruit aromas are usually all down to esters. It's the ester class of chemicals. A bit of my organic chemistry from my master's degree coming in useful, of course. But yeah, it's quite funny. Go back and tell my professors, yeah, do beer reviews. Your organic chemistry was useful. But yeah, the aroma to this one is lovely and juicy. You've got that just sort of medicinally dried fruity vibe to this beer as well. But it's quite a pungent aroma, this one, which I quite like. So in terms of the malt base then, you can smell with this one, it definitely has a bit of a wheaty presence to it, that nice, smooth, white bready wheat. The wheat isn't as pungent, for example, as the Trillium beers, I think, and it's, as I say, it varies from brewery to brewery. Some breweries will use more wheat, some of them will use a different type of wheat that comes across as a little bit more pungent and astringent or whatever. The wheat in this one comes across as very smooth. You can smell some of that nice oaty creaminess to this one as well. You can smell a bit of the strength of the booze in here as well. There is a little bit of a biscuity sweetness there, and of course the alcohol aromas, they come out, and flavours rather, they come out as a little bit of an almost biscuity, very slightly kind of corny brown sugary type thing, and you can smell a little bit of that in this one. I've always felt with the New England doubles, once you start to go above 8%, that's when you're really starting to push it with this style without adding caramel and things. You know, that's, I think the West Coast IPAs, it's easier to take them higher to, you know, like the 9-10% mark than it is with the New Englands. But yeah, this is a really nice, the malt base in this one comes across as being very, very smooth and really quite nice. And that would be how I would describe these Treehouse beers. They actually remind me a lot of the beers that I've had from Russia, the New England IPAs in Russia recently, from Shagovor and Stam Brewing and stuff like this. So yeah, that's a really interesting point to make about this beer. But on the hoppy side of things then, I'd say that the green side of the hops is really leaning towards the big floral aromatic side of things. You'll get there's not really an earthiness to this one, which makes me wonder if the oranges will be coming from Amarillo. Sabro, of course, is another hop that's gaining popularity in America. It's quite an orangey one, and it's got a few other complexities too, so there may well be Sabro in this one. You've got a nice little bit of a lighter grassiness in there as well, but predominantly the green elements of the hops are big and floral and aromatic. On the fruity side of things then, you can get quite a lot out of this. Like I said, there's this almost kind of sultana thing going on in the background, but the lychees are they're really obvious in this one. And that, I'm not sure if there's another hop. I always remember, for me, lychee in beer always comes as one of the complexities you can get from Citra. but the lychees are really obvious in this one. Definitely the mangoes as well. I can really pick that up. The oranges for me, they're not as immediately obvious as the other two. Like, you can get them towards the back of the nose, but to me it's the lychees and the mangoes that are really jumping out of this one. It comes across as a really juicy, tropical, fruity IPA. As I say, there is a bit of the more oily orange in there. I'm drawn between Amarillo. The other one could be Azaka, right enough, but there's Mandarin of Bavaria, there's Waimea, there's Pacifica, there's other hops from New Zealand too. But this one's really very juicy and tropical actually, so it comes across just very nicely and very smooth actually. So yeah, thumbs up to them for the aroma on this one. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. It actually smells very similar to what they're saying on the can, but I don't get all that much grapefruit out of it. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Treat. A 2019 iteration, if that is ever going to be such a thing, with this beer from Treehouse Brewing Company in Charlton, Massachusetts. Once again, massive thank you to Chris for this one, and make sure you check out Massive Matt's review as well. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's really nice actually. I don't find this one quite as pungent as I did some of the other ones. I mean, this one kind of goes back to like Haze, or no, not Haze, rather Julius or Green. It's got that same drinkability sort of thing to it. That's interesting. I mean, I always think it's dangerous with some of these New England beers because they're so easy to drink, but you know, they can be really high in alcohol actually. They're just like juice basically, and I never found that with the West Coast IPAs. The West Coast IPAs, you know, they had that bit of almost beastliness to them. These ones are just really crushable, I think, as the Americans like to say. But this is another awesome beer, this one. It's so easy to drink, so thumbs up to Treehouse Brewing once again for this. And you can tell with this is just sort of in its prime at the moment. It really is in in good form, and it'll just be the time that it's been in the can. So yeah, where to start with this one then? So straight away, middle of your palate, you can feel that nice sort of pale malty base going across the middle of your tongue there. It doesn't come across quite as thick, I think, as some of the other ones. This one, compared to the Perfect Storm that you saw me review a few videos back, compared to that, this one to me comes across as a little bit lighter in its mouthfeel, definitely. The malt base in this one is a little bit more pale. It's a little bit like, there is a little bit of wheat there, and you can feel that coming out the further you go into the aftertaste. The oaty creaminess, there's a little bit of that there again, but to me it just feels a little bit more reserved in this beer. And then when you go into the centre of the palate, that's where you get a little bit of the kind of biscuity notes that are covering the up the alcohol strength, to be honest with you. So that's, you know, it's interesting. The malt base in this one is quite simple, and I've noticed that with Treehouse. They do keep their malt bases quite simple, and they go for that smooth approach, and it really works actually. But you know, you've got so many variables at play. It's quite a considerable art, if you like, or science, you know, combination, to produce beers like this. I mean, this one really is. This is like a double IPA version. Pardon me, getting a bit of gas from it. This is like a sort of double IPA version of like Julius or Green. It's got that same level of drinkability to it. But I like that. This is a nice beer. And in fairness, one of the other things I would say about this is that it does thicken up the more that you drink of it, but the malt base is just really quite nice. You can also feel the oats start to push their way out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness there. I'm still unconvinced as to whether it could be Mosaic, to be honest with you. Mosaic has got that distinctive earthiness to it, and the earthiness that's coming out of this beer, I'm not certain, because it's not quite as dark as you might get from Mosaic sometimes. But as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you can feel it smoothing out a little bit. You've got some nice floral aromaticity to this beer. In fairness, the floral aromaticity does have a little bit of bite in this one, and then as you go round the front curve of the palate, the beer is a little bit lighter and more grassy. I mean, the aroma gives the impression of a lot of floral aromaticity, but it is a little bit more reserved, actually, than you would get, than the impression you would get, to be honest. But with this one, on the fruity side of things, this is where it really starts to get complex. I think overall, this is a really light, drinkable New England Double IPA. It's one of these ones that's just really easy to drink, as I've repeated a few times. Yeah, so for me, the fruity side of things, it's quite different to the aroma as well. The aftertaste is a little bit more kind of akin to what you would expect from the aroma, but in the beginning it is a little bit different. So as I always say, those fruity esters come out in that oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue, and if you go to the back of that, you do get a little bit of that stronger grapefruity, kind of passion fruity type flavour. At the back of that oily bubble is where you'll find that. As you move further forward from that, the beer starts to evolve a little bit more into a kind of more orangey flavour, and there's mangoes sort of mixed into that too. You definitely get that. I mean, they have been very accurate with the fruits in this, I will say that. Granted, some of that might be down to the power of suggestion, right enough, but the orangey, mangoey flavours there are really nice. I think the mangoes are perhaps coming out a little bit more towards the grapefruity note, but then as you come further forward, the oranges, I think the more juicy, oily oranges are sitting there, and then the sort of lychee flavours are kind of sitting just almost on the tip of the tongue. I want to say there's almost a little element of a very light, limey kind of character to this one. It's not overly pungent, but I do want to say there is just a wee touch of like lime or something in this beer too. I think you could be forgiven for saying that there's also a little bit of a kind of papaya type note to this beer, a little bit of a complexity. The beer really in the beginning, it leans more towards the kind of grapefruity, passion fruity side of things. But then the further you go into the aftertaste, it leans more towards the oranges to the kind of lychee notes that suggest, and also there's a wee bit of an almost limey dryness on the or limey zestiness, I guess you could say, on the tip of the palate as well. And you've also got that little almost papaya note, maybe, nah, not apricots I don't think, but there is a little bit of a complexity to this one too. But overall, as I've repeated, I find this to be one of the more kind of drinkable, really easily crushable sort of imperial IPAs. This is a really, really nice beer. If you get the chance to try this, I'm sure you will really enjoy it. It's, you know, I just find it crazy you can make beers that are this drinkable. They seem almost sessionable, to be honest with you, at 8.1%. That's dangerous. In terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, so I would say overall that this beer is mid-bodied. Yeah, mid-bodied. The carbonation is really smooth in this one. I would say it's quite a wet mouthfeel as well. There is an element of creaminess to this one, which becomes a little bit more obvious in the aftertaste, and the aftertaste really starts to lean more towards the lighter side of the fruity notes, and also more of the oaty creaminess comes out, so you will get a little bit of that creaminess in the aftertaste. In terms of the hoppiness and IBUs and stuff, I think we must be talking about 40 or 50 IBUs with this beer. It does have a nice little bit of kind of bite to it, but I guess the longer you leave this one, the hops will sort of drop off a little bit, but I think around 40 or 50 IBUs for this one. The malt base, as I said, very smooth, a little bit of sweetness in there too, but mainly smooth, and you get a little bit of a very slightly sweet, creamy oatiness out of this one in the aftertaste, as I mentioned, and there's some lovely sort of juicy fruity notes to this beer as well. It's got a good level of complexity when it comes to the fruits actually, but overall another really, really damn solid beer from Treehouse Brewing Company. And you know, when they're producing stuff like this, you can see why they get a lot of plaudits for their beers. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for this one. This one is, I think, almost like a bit more like a double IPA version of Julius or Green, something like that. It has the same sort of drinkability vibe as those two beers do. I think that's a good way to sort of sum this one up. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this. This one is The Treat, an 8.1% Imperial IPA, double New England IPA, however you want to term it, from Treehouse Brewing over in Charlton in Massachusetts in America. Once again, a massive thank you to Chris for making this review possible. I probably wouldn't have got to try this beer otherwise. Hopefully I can do a little brewery visit video for you at Treehouse next year when I go over to the States, and I'm sure you'll get to see my friend Tabor again. He wants to come to Treehouse Brewing as well. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thank you again for watching all of my beer reviews. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Treehouse Brewing Company as well. It's always interesting to get suggestions and things like that for the channel too. But thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media, and if you get the chance, have a go at some of these Treehouse Brewing Company beers. This one is the treat. Once again, an 8.1% New England Double IPA from Treehouse Brewing in Charlton in Massachusetts. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål. Make sure you check out this one, especially if you like a nice drinkable New England Double IPA. Cheers.